Welcome to Process to Profitability, a podcast all about the tools and strategies you need to serve your clients and grow your small business, hosted by me, Samantha Mabe of Lemon and the Sea. Join me as I chat with creative entrepreneurs and small business owners about how they built and grew their businesses and how you can do the same in a way that fits you. Let's get started. Today, I'm talking with Jodi Brandon all about writing a book that serves your audience and your business. We go through the process of brainstorming topics for your book, writing that book, getting it published, and even get into some of the marketing, as well as what the ultimate purpose of your book is and how you can validate your ideas before you get started. Jodi also talks about the importance of finding a topic that is going to bring your audience back to your services and how you can serve them well through the topic and the book that you write. She also talks a little bit about her own book and how she went through that process for herself, as well as the reasons that you should consider self-publishing instead of going with traditional publishing. Jodi Brandon has more than 20 years experience in book publishing. After many years working at traditional publishing houses, Jodi and her husband relocated from New York to Philadelphia, and she launched her freelance editing business. Jodi's passion these days is working as a book editor and writing publishing coach for creative entrepreneurs, bloggers, and small business owners who want to up-level their business with a book. Jodi shares some great information for all types of small businesses, including creative entrepreneurs, as well as the more traditional business owners. So I hope that you listen to this episode and maybe are inspired to write a book of your own. Enjoy. Hi, Jodi. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't you start by telling us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and how you got started in your business?
Sure. So I am Jodi Brandon. My company is Jodi Brandon Editorial. I am a book editor and book writing coach. So I am one of those lucky people that just always knew what I wanted to do with my life. I knew I wanted to work in book publishing. I wasn't able to articulate that as a kid, of course. I knew I wanted to, I used to say I want to work with words. So English was always my favorite class, and I always loved to write. And so I moved to New York right after college, like within 2 weeks. I knew that's where the book publishers were. I knew that's where I wanted to be. And when you're 22, you have no idea like what real life is like. And so you're like, sure, I can afford to live in Manhattan. Yes. And I made a deal with my parents that I grew up all over Pennsylvania, and my parents live still in the King of Prussia area, suburb of Philadelphia. And so we made a deal that if I could find a job by the end of the summer, that I could stay in New York. And so I busted my hump to find a job, and I found one. And so I was able to stay. And then I just started working for book publishers, and then I started freelancing on the side and working with authors directly. And now here I am.
All right. So how did you get into working with creatives then?
So book publishing is this really weird industry that is still very like apprenticeship-like. So you start in book publishing no matter if you're 25, if you're 35, if you're 50, you start at the bottom as an editorial assistant and you sort of work your way up. And it takes about, 18 months to get out of that assistant editor or editorial assistant position into an assistant editor position. And that's just sort of like the way it works, because turns out I wasn't the only person who had the great idea to move to New York and work in book publishing. There are, gazillions of people doing that. So they can get away with sort of like not paying a lot of money to editorial assistants and making you work your way up the ladder very slowly. And so I did that and I loved it. And then one day I got an email from someone whose book I had worked on. And he said, I'm working on a second book. I think I'm going to self-publish this book. Do you work with authors directly instead of just through a publishing house? And I was like, well, there's no reason I can't do that. And the extra money certainly couldn't hurt. And then he said like the magic question, which is, what do you charge? Because in publishing, you are paid the rate that they decide. It doesn't matter if you have like 20 years experience, like this is their rate for copy editing. This is their rate for proofreading. And so I thought, what is my rate? That appealed to me, obviously, that I could set my own schedule, my own income. And then I just sort of started working with more and more authors that way. And it turned out the books I like to work on and I'm good at working on were business books. And so I started working with a lot of entrepreneurs, not necessarily creatives at that point, but I was working with a lot of like economists and things like that. And their books were very dry and boring. And then I found this online creative entrepreneur world where it's women who are writing books that are, inserting their story into them a little bit more than the economists were. And it just were so much more fun to work on. And women more than men, I find, are really interested in a collaborative relationship, which is what I really enjoy about editing. Like I don't want to just, get the book and then work on it for 6 weeks and then send it back. I want it to be a really like a team effort, a collaborative effort. Like this is what, I think you should expand here because of X, Y, Z. And what if we move this to a different section in the manuscript? I think that could strengthen it. A lot more back and forth. And women in general, and creatives especially, I find are really open to that kind of process. And so I've just loved it. And so I haven't looked back since.
I think that's funny. I never thought of there being a difference in the way people like to work on editing. Even when my mom would edit my high school papers, I would sit next to her at the computer and we would talk about things. And even like today when my husband does it, I like to sit there and get their feedback and say, no, I don't like that. Or yes, that makes sense. Instead of having someone just like red pen everything and send it to me to figure out.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And that's how the publishing world works. And that's great. But I do like the back and forth. I think that's why I got into the book coaching too, versus just straight editing, because you're working with someone for a longer period, because you're working like while they're working on the book, not after it's totally finished. And I really, really enjoy that part of it. So.
Okay. So I would love to know why you recommend small business owners in creative fields or even outside of the creative world consider writing a book.
It's a good question. So for me, I think that it's all about, there's still that cachet of being a published author. When you see someone's name and then under their name, it's like author of whatever the book is, you think like, oh, that person really knows what they're talking about. So it just lends an air of credibility. And I find that especially for small and growing businesses, it's sort of like a tool in your back pocket to help you grow that platform and give you the credibility and give you the authority and help you get the visibility, all those things that we want as small business owners. Not one client I have ever had has had money as their number one goal when they're writing a book, because which is good, because that's not how it works. But that would be disappointing. It does eventually become a passive income stream, but for entrepreneur authors and creatives who are writing a book, that's not what it's about. It's more about those other, sort of intangibles that we're looking for. And a book is just one way to do that.
So are these books like really short things that they're using as an opt-in on their website? Are they longer books? How do you, handle that? What do you recommend?
Most of the people that I'm working with, it's a longer book. It's not, or an ebook, but it's more than an opt-in. So it's usually, minimum 100 pages, anywhere up to, 200, 250 pages. Anything more than that is really, I think something that could be broken into, shorter books, but it's definitely more than, like a short ebook or workbook for an opt-in. So it's, I know that can sound like, oh my gosh, 100, 200 pages. That sounds daunting to a lot of people, but part of the process that I go through with people is to look through, what you already have, because there's a lot of content that can be repurposed into a book. And then it seems a little bit less daunting, like, oh yeah, I can do that. I already have X, Y, Z. So it's really just a matter of, beefing that up, what you already have for most people.
Okay. Well, that leads me into my next question, which is, Where do you recommend people start when they want to write a book? And sort of, can you walk us through that process?
Sure. So for me, everything starts with the brain dump. You think about, usually people have, a general idea, not necessarily like the exact subject, or I mean, certainly not the title or anything like that, but the broad, subject area. Like, what are the questions that you're getting asked about in Facebook groups? What are you known for? What are you seen as an expert as already? So you have sort of that general like topic area. And I liken it to like the area of the bookstore back when, we had like real bookstores. Like when you walk in Barnes and Noble or Borders or whatever, what section of the store are you going in? Is it, sports? Is it fiction? Is it reference? Is it business? Whatever. And then you just literally set a timer for like 3 to 5 minutes and start writing. You just write down anything you can think of the things that you write blog posts about, that you talk about on podcasts, that people ask you about. And then once the timer goes off, if you're like on a tear, then keep going for a couple of minutes and then take a little break, go back and look at that, like what you've written down, and you'll be able to start to see, not patterns, but groupings. Like, you've got 5 things about, X, and then you've got like 6 things that can be grouped together under the, the heading Y. And then, I sort of have people take that process. I call it like a macro brain dump all the way down to like a micro brain dump. So then you take one of those categories or one of those groupings of 5 or 6 things, and then do a brain dump just on those and see where you can expand on those. And as you do that process, it sort of ends up being almost like an outline, which then becomes a table of contents. But the idea of sitting down and writing an outline is so daunting and just like, 7th grade English class to most creative, most people in our world, just because that's not how our brains work, that you're essentially doing the same thing, but the process isn't as scary when you call it a brain dump versus writing an outline. And then, before you know it, you have a rough outline, a working outline, because of course it's subject to change. And then you introduce, all of the content that you have already, so you look at that outline, like let's say you've got something, like for my book last year, I wrote a book last year, Write, Publish, Market, about self-publishing. And I did my brain dump, I did my outline, and I had a section on, like fears about like what's preventing you from writing. And then I was like, I have a blog post about that. So I could, write down the title of that blog post and then bring that in and see how can I expand on that? How can I change that content, repurpose it from this blog post, for a book, and then how I can make the sections all flow together. And then you just, you start putting it all together and writing.
Okay. So it's not like you're starting from scratch. You should be looking at what you've already done, the things that you're already talking about, and bringing those into this book that you're going to write.
Yeah. If the goal of your book is, to grow your platform about your business, yes. There are certain cases where I'm working with someone right now on a book that's more like about her backstory and how that got her to where she is. So for that, she's not really looking so much at, blog posts and whatnot that she's already written. There she is more starting from scratch. But for most people, for the books that most small business owners and creative entrepreneurs are working on, you have way more than you think that you do. People are, without fail, my clients express surprise to me at how much content they already have.
So how do we find a topic that, we know enough about, that we've got an expertise in, but is also going to help us grow our business and serve our audience?
You've got to validate it. Validate the idea. And so you do that in the same way that you come up with that topic. You think about the things that people ask you in Facebook groups, go into those Facebook groups and say like, hey, would a book about XYZ be beneficial to you? Or would this versus this be beneficial to you? So you want to reach out to your people. Your email list you can survey, of course, Facebook groups, your social media accounts, just go, seek feedback from your people, your people on your list, and then the people in your larger online community, and see, is this something they're interested in? what questions do they have about it? And I mean, you can insert those questions into table of contents ideas also, chapter titles and all that sort of thing. So it's really just about that, taking that idea and validating it, before you get too deep in the process, because you certainly don't want to, I tell people all the time, you don't want to write a marketing book. There's 8 million marketing books out there. You need to niche that down and figure out what your people want to know about marketing. But you also don't want something so specific, like marketing for florists who only work with roses in Southern California. Like, that's too specific. There's a reason that book doesn't exist. So another thing to do is to go on Amazon and do a search like that. So again, if you just type in marketing, you're going to get, millions of titles. But you want something, you want to find that, that sweet spot in between, oh my gosh, there's so many books about this, how will mine possibly stand out? Versus, oh, I can't believe no one's ever written one book on this topic, with millions and millions and billions of books published, every year.
So do we have to worry about feeling like the topic we want to write about is already been written about?
Absolutely not. No, every topic has been written about in some way. So what you're going to, every good topic, like I said, if you've got that idea that there's not one book out there, you have to ask yourself, why is there not one book out there? So you have to find your topic, and then you have to get it to the point where it's your spin. What's making your book different? So I talk about this with, when you're conducting like a market analysis while you're doing your research for your book. So find those books that you would think of as like competing titles. And what is it about those books that's good? What's bad? What do people like about them? What do people not like about them? And how will your book fit into that niche? So that could be, maybe your book has like case studies and none of the other books do. That could be your book's hook. Or maybe your story, your backstory is the hook for your book. You just have to find that one thing that's going to make your book different and appeal to your audience, which you've done by validating. And then, you don't have to worry about getting lost in the crowd.
Okay. So I'd love to know sort of where you come in on this process and how you help your clients to take this idea that they have and actually, create the book and then get it out into the world.
Sure. So, there's different ways to work with, someone like me. So for me, I offer editing services, but then I offer also writing coaching services, which some people call developmental editing versus copy editing, which is what most people think of when they think of an editor. So if I'm doing book coaching, I'll come in earlier in the process. Sometimes it's before the table of contents is written. Sometimes it's before the brain dump even happens. And someone just knows they want to write a book and they don't know, they're not familiar with the process, which, I have that a lot. Of course, the book publishing world is this little insular circle that, why would you understand it if you're not part of it? So in that case, I come on board, a lot of times just with an idea. And then we go through the brain dump process and we go through the writing process and we meet weekly to talk about, like the writing, like how the writing is going, if you're stuck, if you're, I think I need some feedback on this section. And then, sort of all the way up until the manuscript is edited. If I'm just doing editing for someone, then your manuscript is written and then you're hiring a copy editor. And that person is going to, do all the things that you probably think of, the grammar and the spelling and the mechanics and all, there's more to it than that, but those are the things that most people are thinking of. And then once a book is edited, there are people who will offer, full service, sort of like a mini publishing house. I don't do that, but I do work with designers that I recommend who can get your book ready for publication. And almost all of my clients these days are self-publishing by choice. That used to not be the case. It used to be that you didn't want to self-publish because it wasn't, I'm doing air quotes, like real publishing. But these days, a lot of entrepreneurs especially, they want to control the process. They want to have control over what their cover looks like and what the timeline is like for getting the book out there. So I can recommend people for that. There's a few designers that are really great with different kinds of books. And then the actual self-publishing process, especially via Amazon, is so easy. I mean, if I can do that part myself, anybody can do it themselves. I mean, once you set up an account on Amazon, it's literally as simple as just like uploading the file and, clicking through it to make sure nothing looks wonky. And then you're good to go. I mean, it's almost like anticlimactic. I walked through it with a lot of my clients and it seemed anticlimactic. And then when I did it for myself, my own book last year, I was like, that's really it. Wow. Like, there it is. There's my book. So, I mean, it really is sort of anticlimactic, which is probably a good thing, I guess.
Yeah. I'd love to learn more about why you think people are self-publishing and what the benefits are to doing that route as opposed to traditional publishing.
It's control over everything. So, I mean, a lot of people don't realize, and when you work with a traditional book publisher, you're getting like the expertise of that publishing house. So they're going to edit the book for you. They're going to design the book for you. They're going to come up with a cover for you, and and it used to be that they did, huge marketing and publicity campaigns, which was the appeal. So you really, as an author, kind of once the book was done, a lot of the work was over. And so that's not the case anymore. When I started in publishing 20 years ago, we had, people would go out for, 3-hour lunches and have, a glass of wine with lunch. And then there'd be like a big party in the afternoon for such and such author's book release with cake and champagne and the whole thing. And then that author's off on like a 20-city tour, like publicity tour. Those days they're so over. Book publishing is not making enough money, unfortunately, anymore. So it's just, a lot of my clients say, well, I'm going to be doing the marketing work anyway. I would rather have control over the process. So you control everything. There's no art director telling you or, bookstore salesperson saying like, hey, I think this cover is going to do better. No, this is the cover that I want. This is the cover that I'm getting. So when you have a traditional book deal, if their biggest, like if Barnes and Noble's buying manager says, we like this cover better than that cover, and we can, give you an order of 10,000 books, that's the cover your book is going to have, whether you like it or not, which stinks. So little things like that. You control the timeline when you're self-publishing. So a lot of times, the average amount of time from the time a book is accepted by a publishing house until you are holding a physical book in your hands can be up to 18 months, which is a long time.
Yeah.
Especially with, depending on your topic. If you're writing a book on something marketing related or social media related, for example, 18 months from now, that book is going to be ancient history, whatever you've written. So the time to market, you can really, it can be, a couple months if you're self-publishing, which is fantastic. So you get your book out there quicker, into customers' hands quicker, and it's doing all the things you want it to do for you, your credibility, your authority, growing your platform, all those things.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you probably have more rights then over what you can do with that content afterwards as well.
Yeah, you're keeping everything for sure. And you're also keeping a lot more money. So with a traditional book deal, you're going to get what's called an advance against royalties. So what that means is you're going to get a chunk of money up front, but then you're not going to see another penny until that book, what we call, earns out. So if you get, a $5,000 advance, let's just say, and so now the book is out for sale and it's selling and selling and selling, you're not going to get royalties until the publishing company makes what you would get $5,000 worth. So, it could be 3 years until you get it. And now you don't have to pay that back if that book doesn't, what we say, earn out. So if the book only sells enough that you would have gotten $4,000 in royalties, you're never going to see another penny. You don't have to pay back that $1,000 extra, but you won't get anything more. So there's no advance against royalties with self-publishing, obviously, but you're keeping, with Amazon, depending on your pricing structure and all that, but you can keep up to 80% of your profits. And if you're selling it on your own site, you're keeping obviously 100% of the profits versus, like 20% with a traditional book deal. So that's, that's appealing to obviously a lot of entrepreneurs.
Yes. So do you recommend that people have like a physical book? Because I know yours is a physical book, or is it easier and smarter to just publish it as an ebook that somebody can get on a Kindle or some other type of reader?
So I did both, and I recommend that people do both. It's so easy to do both. In my opinion, it's silly not to. There are still many, many people who don't want to read an ebook. They want to read a physical book. Amazon makes it so easy to do that it just seems, you're just uploading a different version of your manuscript instead of, it converts it for you from a Word document to what they call an EPUB file versus a PDF. So it's really, it's so simple. It's a no-brainer to do both. Just because, you're going to reach different people in different ways. I'll read on Kindle all day long, but I still do love reading an actual physical book too. And there are people who, my mom and her sisters, for example, we say this all the time. We have a family, like a book club, because my mom has 5 sisters, and then, we have a lot of cousins and stuff. My aunts and my mom will not read on a Kindle. Like if the book does not offer a physical version, we can't have that as our book club book because they're not doing it, which is crazy, but it is what it is. So, if it was more complicated and, a bunch of hoops to jump through, then I would say just do an ebook. It's fine. But honestly, it's so easy to do both. There's no sense in limiting your audience and your sales.
Yeah. I do both. I resisted the ebooks for a long time, and I switched over, but if I'm going to buy a book, I want to have a physical book. If I'm just borrowing it from the library, it can be a Kindle book because it's going to disappear. It doesn't matter.
Right. That's interesting.
Yes. And then a physical book you can pass around a whole lot easier too, to share with people.
Yeah. You can do book for marketing purposes. And like, if you speak at a conference and you want to sell them, or they'll let you sell them at the back of the room, like that kind of thing. Yeah. Physical books all the way. Yeah. And then you can sign them. People love that too.
It's like you're famous.
Yeah, exactly.
So can you give any advice on, just some brief marketing tips if you have written a book or you're in the process of writing a book?
Sure. So, my biggest tip for marketing, honestly, is to just remember that it is a marathon and not a sprint. So the whole point of the book eventually making passive income for you is that it's sort of, so like when you publish with a traditional publishing house, like you'll be in the catalog that season and then you're sort of forgotten about. So the book is not going to make you any money if no one knows it's out there. So you have to think of it, as a long range marathon type thing. So you're going to do a push at the beginning when the book first comes out, and you'll make a chunk of money, and that's great. But then you need to constantly be marketing that book. My long range plan was that I did the big launch last fall, November 1st, my book came out. And then I do one like sort of mini push per quarter, whether that's, like a blog tour or some kind of mini campaign. And then every single day though, I'm doing some kind of book related marketing task. You can't just put it out there and hope that everyone's going to find it, because unfortunately that's just, there's millions of books published in this country. It's just, you're such a small fish in a big sea that you have to do some work to get it, to be visible. So I say that a book, like a book sales page is a great tool to use before, during, and after. And that can be whether it's like its own website, it's a page on your website that already exists, whatever. You also want to take advantage of Amazon's, their author pages, because there will be people who just might search for a book. There are people that have bought my book that aren't part of the creative, entrepreneur community that have found, on Amazon by searching, like self-publishing handbook or self-publishing how-to or whatever, my book has come up. And they're not necessarily a part of this community, so they might not have been searching for actually my book, but my book came up, and so they can go to my Amazon author page and find out a little bit more about me, and then hopefully, get over to my own site and my own page. And I can find them that way. I actually just recorded a video for my YouTube channel today about why you need to have an opt-in in your ebook or print self-published book, because Amazon does not share customer information. So that's your only way to sort of track who is buying your book, is if you can get them to you somehow. So your book sales page is huge for that. And you can grow that as you go. So when you're just writing your book, and it's your landing page basically, and most people use a free chapter or like a checklist, maybe from an appendix or something, as an opt-in to get you to start building some momentum for the book before it even is published. But then you've got, you can put a video trailer on that page, you can put advanced reviews on that page. And then as the book is published and you get more reviews and more testimonials and all those things, you can add them to the page. So it stays active even after the book comes out, because, marketing is it's a long game. It's definitely not a sprint. So I would just say, remember that it is a long game for marketing purposes, and make sure that you don't have to be doing something, something big and huge and exhausting, like planning a full launch can be all the time. But you definitely want to be doing something marketing related, at least weekly, if not daily. And then, pick whether, for me, it's quarterly. I know for some people it's, twice a year, or even like once a year on the anniversary of like the book's release, they'll do like another like big promo effort. But it becomes part of your daily routine. And I find that it's just, it's like everything else that you do every day, like, checking your social media and commenting on social media, all those little things that you're doing that really matter. Book marketing, same thing.
Yeah. And that's a good reminder, because we should be doing those things for anything we're doing in our business anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. A book launch is just like any other launch. It seems so unfamiliar because you've never done it before. But yeah, no, all of the things that that apply to a launch of, any product, any service, a podcast, anything. Yep. Same thing with a book.
Yeah. And you covered this a little bit when you mentioned that your book should have like an opt-in on your page, but is there anything else that can help move people who have purchased this book to then getting on your website, maybe hiring you for your services, to sort of use that book as a marketing tool itself?
Yeah, that's the goal, right? Ultimately, that's the goal, is to get people back to you, become one of your people, and then, eventually hire you. So I think it's just a matter of familiarity. So you get them familiar with you, you build that know, like, trust factor, you get them onto your site somehow, and then they see what you're about. They've read your book, so they know what you're talking about. You have authority. You seem credible to them. And then, through your email newsletter, I find is the way that most people build and nurture that relationship. So that when someone is ready to go, like from the book to a one-on-one service or a group program, or, whatever it is you're trying to sell, they're primed for it. They're a warm lead.
Right. And that goes back to picking a topic too, is pick a topic that then you can actually offer a service that comes after that.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, absolutely. Not to toot my own horn, but that's the whole long range plan with my book. So my book, Write, Publish, Market, is about the three aspects that you need to know for self-publishing: writing, the publishing, and then marketing it. And so theoretically, someone could buy my book for $9.99 and figure it out for themselves, but there's always going to be those people who want you to walk them through it and hold their hand through it. And so those people are perfect, to hire me then for one-on-one book coaching.
Right.
So, that's the exact model that's how it should be working. Yep.
Okay. So do you have anything that I didn't ask, or else that you'd like to share that we didn't cover?
No, I think you covered it pretty well from start to finish.
Good.
I think the biggest thing is that the unfamiliarity with the book publishing world scares a lot of people off. And I understand that. The creative entrepreneur world scared me off when I was, which is not that it's scary, but it's just that, like, how does this work? I don't know. This is not something I'm used to. I mean, it's just a matter of, figuring it out or hiring someone who, is familiar enough to help you figure it out. So don't be afraid of that. It's just like any other product or service in your business. It's just another tool, for your tool belt.
Okay. Then can you tell us a little bit about how serving your clients and your customers, maybe your book readers, has been important in your business?
Yeah, I think for me, it goes back to what we were talking about early on, whereas, a lot of us creative entrepreneurs, bloggers, solopreneurs, I mean, we're at home working by ourselves. And so the collaborative effort or aspect of the book publishing process has been so important to me because it gives me friends, basically. That sounds a little sad. Like, I said it like that, but do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We're so used to being in our own little bubble. And sometimes you just need that reminder of like, oh, this is why I'm doing this. Like, I have this knowledge that I can share and help other people grow their businesses. And I mean, this community is so collaborative in general, this online, creative entrepreneur community. Like, everybody wants to help each other, community over competition, all of those, all those things that we hear all the time, but it's really true. Like when I was looking for, I had never heard the word sales funnel in my entire life when I was working on my book. And my business coach was like, you need a sales funnel. And I was like, I don't even know what a sales funnel is. And so, I know people who know about sales funnels though. And so they can help me with my sales funnels, and now I can help them with a book, or, it's a matter of taking your expertise and sharing it. It doesn't do me any good to hoard information. When I can be helping other people and we can all be growing our businesses. Like what's good for everybody else is good for me too. So yeah. It sounds hokey, I know, but it's the truth.
Yes, it is. Okay, so tell me 2 things that you're loving right now. They can be business or life.
Okay, so of course, one of mine is a book. Of course it is. My friend, Jess Freeman from Just Creatives, just recommended this book to me called Option B by Sheryl Sandberg, who she wrote Lean In, and she works for Facebook. And it's all about, the subtitle is all about like overcoming adversity and things like that. But my friend recommended it because Sheryl wrote it, and a lot of it's about dealing with the grief from when her husband died, which it was like a big thing, and she became sort of like internet famous for that because her husband died unexpectedly. And my mom is sick, and so Jess recommended this book to me, and she's like, I think it'll help you, work through some of the things you're going through with my mom. I mean, my mom is still with us for now, but yeah, and it's been really, really helpful and interesting. And I cannot recommend the book highly enough. So that's one. And then my other thing is, although it's dreary as all get out here today in the Philadelphia area, it's supposed to rain all weekend, my husband and I got new deck furniture this spring, and we have been enjoying cocktails on the deck every night that it's not raining before dinner, and it's been heavenly, I have to say.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
It does.
We've been talking about getting new furniture for a couple of years, and then we always wait until like a little bit too late in the season. And then there's like a 19-piece furniture set or like a chair left, and those are options. So we made a deal at the end of last summer that we were going to start looking super early this year, like way earlier than we thought we needed to. And we did, and it was, great decision. Yeah. Good call. Yeah.
I've been surprised at the number of people who have recommended books as one of the things that they're loving.
Really? Oh,
yes.
I'm so happy.
It must just be our way to like learn and escape and relax.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's all. That makes me happy.
Yes. Okay. So what are you excited for that's coming up in the future? What are you working on?
I'll tell you, this is sort of a strange time for me because I'm like, I don't want to say sabbatical, but I'm really right now only focusing on client work. Like I was saying, my mom is ill. My mom my mom, we only have a very finite amount of time left with my mom. So I have like put all like big projects on hold, and I'm really just working on client work that I had already sort of booked out. And luckily my clients have all been very gracious and very understanding about extending timelines and whatnot. But the next big thing I'm going to be launching is, it's called The Right Life. And I've been like building up visibility and everything for it at the end of last year and beginning of this year before my mom got sick. And it's going to be a group coaching, like a writing mastermind that ends in like a weekend long writing retreat. So I'm super excited. I don't obviously have a timeline at this point. I feel like everything in life is on hold right now, but that is going to be the next big thing. And I'm very, very excited about it.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, it should be really, it's taking a lot of the questions I've gotten about like accountability and, like having like a buddy. A lot of my one-on-one clients have asked for that. And so I've been able in some cases to pair people up depending on the stage they're at of the process, but it hasn't really worked like in a big way. So I thought of this idea, and a lot of people had asked me about, I get asked a lot about hosting a writing retreat. And so I thought if I could combine those two things in a way that, we could do a lot of like the prep work during the mastermind, and then there'd be writing every week of the mastermind, so that you didn't come, thinking like, oh, I need to write an entire book in this weekend, while 3 days while I'm here. But if you've written enough of it, you could realistically finish the book at that weekend. And that would be awesome. And then we could just, like at the end, have like a little wrap up talking about the publishing part of it and the marketing part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it's all ready to go. It's just, I know that right now I don't have the mental capacity to devote what people would deserve.
Right.
So it's on hold for the moment, but that's going to be the first thing that, gets back in the hopper when life returns to normal here. So
yeah. And so
we'll see. I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. We'll see a lot of books coming out in the future.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope so.
Okay. Then my last question is just, where can people find you online and connect?
Oh, I would love to connect with your listeners. I'm on my website, jodibrandoneditorial.com. Facebook, same Instagram, Pinterest, and Twitter. I'm Jodi_Brandon. I don't know why it's not Jodi Brandon Editorial, and now they won't let me change it. So,
oh, social media.
I know. That's all right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. I love talking books. Thank you.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks for listening to Process to Profitability. Please take a minute to leave an honest review in iTunes so that I can help more small business owners and creative entrepreneurs find the show.